to realize this vision in Ghana, the Mastercard Foundation has partnered with Meltwater Entrepreneurial School, or MEST Africa, to bring you Edtech Monday, and it's on Channel 1 television and also on 97.3 CDFM the last Mondays of the month. This is the July edition. And as I said, we're building TVET systems for economic transformation. Why are we doing this? Because the Africa Center for Economic Transformation has partnered with some very important institutions to put up a very key report. So they partnered with Ghana TVET, the Africa Education Watch, and of course Mastercard Foundation to come up with a report on building TVET systems for economic transformation in Africa. Now, I'm going to give you a few highlights of this report and its findings before I speak to my first guest. Today, we're speaking to two groups of guests. We'll speak to Afi Agbenyo, who is from Ghana TVET. She's the Deputy DG in charge of operations, and she's going to walk us through the state of play with TVET in Ghana. Then we'll speak to Constance Swanika, who is from DTI, and we'll also speak to Mona Idrisu, who works with the asset to get into the details of the report. But before I speak to Afi from Ghana TVET, what are the key findings of this report? So we know that approximately 35% of Ghana's population is between ages 15 and 35 years. And this is a very significant group of people who have the biggest need for training because unemployment affects them in a very unique way. Now, the report has 6 main findings. The first of which is challenges of Ghana's TVET sector. And it identifies some of the challenges, including inadequate financing, limited practical training, poor digital infrastructure, and weak science, technology, engineering, and math. There's also the area of industry readiness and alignment with labor markets, right? And basically on that, they are saying there are weak links with industry. Many institutions operate with outdated curricula and minimal private sector involvement. The third group of findings have to do with the extent of digitalization in TVET. We know digitalization is essential for modern workforce readiness. Yes, most TVET institutions in Ghana have very low levels of digital or technology integration. Indeed, only 20% of TVET students feel adequately equipped with digital skills. The fourth rubric for findings is what we call green skills and sustainability in TVET. And again, only 25% of formal TVET students have any awareness of green skills, and most master craftspersons and their apprentices lack knowledge in areas like renewable energy, waste management, climate responsive agriculture, right? Then there's also private sector involvement in TVET. This is a big area that the research finds. And it says a well-coordinated private sector engagement strategy is essential for strengthening TVET. Government cannot do it alone. And again, only about 46% of TVET heads and policymakers or regulators believe that TVET has effective collaboration with industry. And of course, finally, the big G word, gender disparities in TVET. Only, 27% of TVET enrollment is for women. Men account for 73%. There's a huge gender gap, although progress has been made, right? There are some very key recommendations that we'll discuss when we speak to Mona and also Constance. But when we come back from this break, I'm going to be speaking to the Deputy Director General for Ghana TVET, Afi Agbenyo, and she'll set the scene for us on the state of play with TVET on this special edition of Edtech Monday. Stay with us. Welcome back to this edition of Edtech Monday. And today we're looking at building TVET systems for economic transformation. And so we want to get a baseline and a clear understanding of what TVET is and where we are in Ghana. We're very happy to have the Deputy DG for Ghana TVET. He's in charge of operations, Afi Agbenyo. Afi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bernard.
Sounds like a big post.
Is it?
A Deputy DG for operations,
Actually,
Ghana
it's a
TVET.
mouthful, right?
It's a huge position. So who is Ghana TVET and what does the Deputy DG even do?
Right. Possibly I just have to go back to the landscape of TVET in Ghana, and then I can draw that to myself.
Correct.
So previous years we had TVET delivery in various, ministries. So the Ministry of Labor had a TVET institution, Ministry of Trade and everyone. But there was a policy directive to get all these under the umbrella of the Education Ministry because it's skills development. and that birthed the Ghana TVET service and also birthed the Commission for TVET. So the Commission, the regulator, and then the Ghana TVET service, as you asked, our task mandate is to ensure quality delivery. And so we manage all the TVET institutions. We ensure that the policies that are developed by the Commission are implemented. So we give life to the policy documents that are developed. And my task in this big conversation is to support the Director General, whose name is Dr. Eric Ajre, to implement the policies. But specifically, my task includes partnerships for the delivery of TVET, acquiring partnership for the delivery of TVET, and this includes industry partnerships as well. My task also includes quality assurance, making sure that TVET delivery is top standard. So I agree that it might not be a big position, but a big task, and a charge that I intend to keep. So that's generally what I do.
TVET is generally seen like a last resort, right? So for academics, they say, oh, if it doesn't do well, never snore, right? And they put TVET under that. Do you have a problem with that? And number two, what should people like us in the media and other people be doing to shift this narrative?
Thank you. And one of the things that ought to be done is what you're doing now, the conversation around TVET. To say I have a problem with that, do I have a problem with that? That's the situation. I'm not sure I can say I have a problem or not. But what I can say is that is changing a lot. And that is also due to the various advocacies that's gone on over the years. There are parents who appreciate that the return on the investment on education is to get their children to be in decent jobs. And so they think through the process and they wonder what will give them that decent job, especially in the near future, and they choose TVET regardless of the grade. So you're able to make a 6 and your parent would think that, you know what, I think you should consider this job option and take a TVET training. And young people themselves are also opting for TVET, either in plumbing, in welding, in the fashion industry, even in recycling, which we're introducing also as a training offer. So young people themselves are choosing TVET, and the perception, as I would like to say, is changing. Not as rapid as we hope that it is, but it is changing. And so people are choosing TVET on their own, not because it's a last resort.
You know what's interesting? This week...
And permit me to answer the other part of your question, which was what should the media be doing?
To change the perception.
And one is to have the conversation on a more positive side. 2 is to get to speak to the people involved. Let's highlight the entrepreneurs who have gone through TVET and built businesses. Let's highlight them and open your space. Thing is that most TVET institutions, including myself, are not very much funded. And so sometimes your bills are too high when we want to get an interview. So you make concessions.
I see, you do that in there. So a friend of mine reached out to me this week within your sector and said that, look, school selection is happening within this period, and that I should create a platform on air to talk about why choose a TVET second cycle school. I didn't even know that we had over 400 TVET institutions in the country. So what I'm trying to say is that we've already started what you're saying. And it looks like, because it's one of the first times that people's results would have come for them to choose their schools, people with even strong results can say, actually, this is what I want to do. Right. So I just wanted to highlight that what you're saying is actually very true. And this week and the week after on radio, we'll be discussing choice of schools and why TVET is critical. And I think you know Kofi Asare.
Yes.
He's the person I'm talking about.
Championing
So do you collaborate with them?
We do, especially sharing data to support his work. And we also have a project running now on Choose TVET. And so please invite us on your show for the conversation so we can encourage more young people.
I will invite you.
Thank you.
In the report, I highlighted about 73% of people in TVET are men. So the gender gap is still very big, even though there's been some progress, right? Talk to me about some of the barriers women face in accessing TVET, and what do you think it would take to build gender equity by design rather than as an afterthought?
Right. The dynamics of gender conversations in TVET are, I must, possibly in three folds. So there are very historical ways in which we have seen some trade skills. And that is because those trade skills have been, they have required muscles to practice. And so many people didn't think that women had that much muscle for those trade spaces. That builds the historical, segregation when it comes to gender and TVET. But over the years, there's a conversation on how even these skills, technology is advancing these skills that you might not even require the muscles. But there are young people who like that, and they have the muscles for it as well. That's one dimension. Then the other dimension is also the oversaturation. Saturation and over is a lot more to put emphasis that there are some spaces that are very female dominated. That saturation also causes lower economic gains in that space. We normally will not look at that, but as we know, where there are a lot more skills providers in some spaces, that space does not become very economical. So it's not really just the cosmetic of wanting women to be in certain spaces, but it is really for young women to be able to, one, just choose what they want to do without barriers of perception, but two, choose what will give them economic gains. And sometimes it is on the other side of what they know. What can we do to systemically get them to get into that space? Now, secondary education, including TVET education, is free because one of the barriers was also funding for individuals. So young people are able to choose without the funding barrier. But facilitators, the infrastructure also ought to support that. Facilitators ought to understand the dynamics of teaching young women as to teaching young men, because there are some dynamics. If you're in class and you're having a conversation and all your examples are even on how men can do welding or like that, I don't feel exactly. I don't feel included. So those soft ways are also ways in which you're able to get young people, especially young women, to feel included and know that this is a space. Yet there is also the need for the media again to showcase a lot more of role models for young people to see what it means, young women to see what it means to be a welder, to see what it means to be a woodworker, a carpenter, as we call it in this part, of bricklayer, to see what it means to be in a plumber, the digital space, be in the agric space as well. Agric mechanization is one space that is very much male dominated. And as I would always say, young women would love to be in the agric value chain, but somehow that space is almost secluded, right? They are not included in that space. So it is important to showcase that and also give a lot more scholarship. But from our side as a responsibility to also mentor young women, get them mentorship so that they are able to appreciate what it means to take those skills.
This is Edtech Monday. We're having a conversation about building TVET systems, not just from an education perspective, but for economic transformation. And a lot of the discussion will be based on a report that the Africa Center for Economic Transformation put together. Later on, I'll be speaking to the person in charge of asset for that and also somebody from DTI. But for now, I'm speaking to Afi Agbenyo, who's the Deputy DG for Operations at the Ghana TVET, setting the scene for us. TVET is the thing. It's not an afterthought. TVET is not for dropouts. It's the main thing. All right, let's talk about allocation of education budget. Again, I think the Education Minister spoke about that in the course of the week. We allocate only 2% of our education budget to TVET. The report from ASSET recommends at least 5%. What would that increase actually change on the ground? And is 5 even what we want? Do we want 20, 30? Talk to me.
Right. The funding of TVET is woefully inadequate, as the Education Minister himself, Honorable Haruna Idrissa himself, had mentioned in his address. The dynamics of the funding is also very crucial. So even the 2%, you have the policy angle, and then you have the implementation of the policy angle. And it is important to also know, to look through those spaces, which of these spaces is lacking the more. As I mentioned, there is the delivery of TVET requires consumables, as we call it, which is a daily usage for young people to practice what they learn. It is a lot of cost. As we have it, we have about a 14,000 plus staff gap. But there's the issue of funding to be able to get clearance, to get the right skill sets to join the service to deliver TVET. That is another angle of funding that you deal with. Infrastructure. Every TVET institution is expected to have a state-of-the-art workshop.
Correct.
As much as possible, a lab, computer lab, it should have at least some decent assembly hall for young people, and then the other facilities, not to talk of tools, exactly my point, and classrooms, let's at least have computer setups to support, training. But this is not the case currently, and this is what funding is required. So even the 5% that is being given, truly it is, of course, higher than what we have now, but still very, very inadequate. The Minister of Education has championed very aggressively, kudos to him, the establishment of the TVET fund. And the fund is expected to have contributions from various spaces, including industry. That helps funding of TVET. And so we look forward to that also supporting TVET delivery in Ghana.
So we've been speaking to the Deputy DG for Operations for Ghana TVET, Afi Agbenyu, setting the scene for us for a conversation we're going to have next about the full report. You can get in touch with us in a number of ways. You can scan the QR code on the screen. You can also send your feedback via the WhatsApp number we're displaying, 059-267-4082. We really want to hear from you, either by way of your questions or your own experience about the conversation we're having, or suggestions for other programs. We really like to hear from you. So please don't fail to scan the QR code, point your phone camera to the screen, scan it, send us an information, or send us a WhatsApp or text message on the number here. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. So to delve deeper into this all-important report, I'm very happy to have the Head of Youth Employment and Skills Program at the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, ASET, Mona Idrisu. Mona, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Bernard.
It's good to have you. How are you?
Good. Doing well.
Wonderful. We're also very happy to have the founder and president of the Design and Technology Institute, popularly known as DTI, the great Constance Swanica. Constance, good to have you again.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So we'll delve into this report in terms of what it sought to achieve and why it's important, particularly the fact that even though it looked into 6 countries, it does have some very interesting things about Ghana. Mona, tell me about ASET and why you're even interested in skills development in youth at all.
Okay, so for those who haven't heard of us, the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, we're a Pan-African think tank. We support governments across Africa in achieving, or the road to achieving, economic transformation, which is simply to ensure that we have economies that are more diversified, that are export competitive, and has a workforce that is skilled for the future of work. Yeah.
So usually we look at youth unemployment as an education issue. So they will say, oh, people are not getting the skills necessary to give them work. ASET seems to think about this differently. You seem to focus on it as an economic transformation issue. Can you elaborate on that and why you think strengthening TVET is such a key part of this transformation story?
Great. As you rightly said, for us, skilling young people isn't just an education issue. It's for African governments that are seeking to transform our economies. How do we transform? Industrializing, transforming our economies to more advanced systems. Where do we find the skills force to do that, Bernard? It's by skilling young people. It's by making sure that we have a workforce that is productive. And I'm sure you've heard the statistics. We are the future workforce. Africa, we are the future workforce. And so for us as ASET, skilling young people isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's integral to industrializing and transforming our economies. There is no we can't negotiate that. And so for us, our emphasis on TVET comes from a decade-long work we've been doing around building skill systems. Our research shows that we have an excess demand for the type of skills that comes out of TVET, technical vocational education, compared to the type of skills that comes out of grammar education. That's not to say that grammar education isn't important, but that's to say that if we want to create jobs for young people, or we want to skill young people for jobs that are available, we need to turn attention to TVET. It also is important because for TVET, you have industry that is hungry, and I'm sure Constance will talk a bit more about private sector. You have industry that is hungry and needs workforce, and we can't find it. And we end up importing, you heard about Dangote's refinery, how many workforce he imported from Asia to take up jobs that could have gone to Africans. Why? Because we didn't have the skill set. And that is the type of skill set that comes out of TVET. So in this report, we highlight in 6 African countries, Ghana being one of them, the importance for us to strengthen and build TVET systems that will spur economic transformation on the continent.
So you decided that you would not do it as a single country study. You wanted to check why the 6-country approach? Is it, and again, what did you find across the countries that you studied?
Right. As you're aware, in Africa, a lot of our challenges are not unique to one African countries. At Assets, our approach is always to do multi-country studies. Why? Because in as much as the issues are not isolated, sometimes having the bird's eye view allows us to put in or to recommend policy solutions that confront similar issues faced by African countries. So for instance, going back to this report, you will find that all of these countries in question, Ghana, Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, Ethiopia, and Uganda, we are all facing the same issues. Inadequate infrastructure to support TVET systems. We have inadequate financing going into TVET. Across the 6 countries, less than 5% of education budgets go into financing TVET. And this is an area I've just mentioned that has excess demand for the type of skill set coming out. Across board, we are facing trainers that do not have adequate skills to train young people for the future of work. So as you can see, the issues are similar, and we don't have to look at it from one country perspective. This way, we are able to tackle it as a unified front in terms of African countries coming together to be able to tackle this. The last point I'll make on this is a lot of the issues we face on the continent, Bernard, including skills, are ones that if we came together as African countries, we would be able to solve more productively. Labor mobility being one of them. If there's an excess demand for, let's say, carpenters in Kenya, why can't carpenters trained in Ghana move into such areas, right? And if African countries are grappling with unemployment, we should be able to look at it from a regional integration lens so that we're able to move labor into productive sectors across the region and not just trying to tackle it in an isolated way.
I'll come back to some of the findings in the report, but I'd like to bring Constance in. And look, thank you for joining us. A number of us have interviewed you, but not everybody will know. So what is DTI? Why did you set it up? And how does it relate to the TVET conversation?
Okay. So I'd like to just go back to the industry that I work in. 25 years ago, I entered into the metal fabrication space. We're working on very high-end projects. Most of the time, we're the only Ghanaian subcontractors working alongside foreign labor. And one of the key things that the partners that we're working with, or the industries, were complaining about the quality of skill sets that were available. Mind you, when you're working on these international projects, the issues around quality and standards, these are projects that the level of investment would require certain standards. It was just, looking at the recurring themes that we recognize, that the artisans we were working with came from the informal sector. They were trained as apprenticed. So there wasn't any platform or institution that were really training labor market, to fill a niche gap. And that's when we recognize that let's go back to the root cause of how we're training skilled craftsmen. In our case as well, every time we hired these apprentices, we had to do a lot of retraining to get them to work at the standards that our clients, demanded.
Yeah.
And that's when we recognized that it had to go back to the training. I'll take my own case, having studied in university in a creative industry that required us to use our hands, that everything we knew were taught in a theory form. And so everything that I learned in industry, I learned from a factory floor, working in industry. So that's when I recognized that the curriculum, the gap between academia and work, is a huge disconnect. We still find that till today, there's that huge gap. And I'd like to also look at our colonial educational system. We were trained by the British to be civil servants. And so our education didn't have TVET at its core. If you were not smart, then you go and learn
It was like an afterthought.
Vocation.
Yeah.
But everybody, was geared towards to work in a white-collar job. And so we also then had the historical educational system that we then inherited. And so the foundation itself was quite weak.
Which is why you set up
DTI.
How many years ago is this?
And so DTI the concept came actually about 15 years ago, because we saw there was an opportunity and there was a demand. But when we started, we didn't really, couldn't really see where this was going, because at that time there wasn't conversations around TVET. In fact, 25 years ago, nobody was even talking about TVET.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, what is she doing? But just working in the industry and recognizing the demand and what we're seeing, we recognized that there was definitely a big need.
And from the way you've expanded, I can say there's more than enough demand for what you're doing.
Huge. We cannot churn out enough young people into the labor market to meet the demands of some of these industries. Mind you, everywhere you look in Ghana, there's a lot of major projects, whether it's construction, manufacturing, discoveries of oil and gas, railway projects. So as Mona said, for any country to kickstart industrialization agenda, you would need really well-skilled workers, labor.
Yeah.
We also now are grappling with urbanization, and so our buildings are all going up. We have a huge demand for even plumbers, industrial plumbers, industrial electricians, welders, you name it. But when we are talking about these, and that means that the engineering becomes quite complex. What people don't recognize that TVET is all engineering, is all math and science.
Yeah.
And so the perception that a young person who cannot make it to university, but if you don't have a strong math and science background, I think it was also in the report, the fundamental literacy and numeracy.
Yeah.
How do you even take measurements to exact standards before you even start putting building blocks together? So, it's important that we look at the foundation, fix the foundation, and then to really look at critically what we're trying to solve here.
Glancing to the report, they grouped their findings into 6. So they looked at the challenges facing Ghana's TVET sector, industry readiness and alignment with labor market needs. Then they have something they call the extent of digitalization in TVET. And then they deal with green skills and sustainability in TVET, private sector involvement in TVET, and then gender disparities in TVET. Of course, then they give details, right? The question I have for you is, for someone who works directly in TVET, how closely do these findings reflect the reality you have on the ground?
It's a very good report.
Okay.
And I must commend AZ for that. I think the realities sometimes are even more dire than we think. You know, we now have disruption to the future of work. And so if you look at what AI has done to the future of work, the urgency in which we're looking at how we're training our labor force means that we do need to take some urgent steps, you know, in restructuring the educational system. I go back to the curriculum. We still have most of our institutions that are using curriculum that is 50 to 80 years old. So since independence, nothing has changed. But industry around us is changing so fast. And now you have technology that has also heightened, you know, the way we teach and the way we learn. Industry also is not waiting. You know, so when you see the disconnect along, you know, some of the six key pillars that were highlighted, if you're not worried from the security perspective, then that is a big issue. And I would like us to also reflect on the recent happenings in South Africa. Let's also go back to their history. To strip a country of its educational system means that you've totally disrupted its labor market. And so if you look at the South African model where they inherited a Bantu educational system, I think for the rest of Africa, if we don't see what is happening and we also connect to what happened in the Arab Spring, then let's look at also the juxtaposition, you know, of what we see versus the opportunity. And I think for us, where we sit, that is the biggest concern.
Wow. This is Edtech Monday, and we're looking at building TVET systems for economic transformation in Ghana. And a large chunk of today's discussion is based on very, very good reports that the Africa Center for Economic Transformation did in partnership with the likes of the MasterCard Foundation, Ghana TVET, and of course, the Africa Education Watch. And the report is titled Building TVET Systems for Economic Transformation in Africa. I alluded to some of the key areas of the findings, and I'm talking in this segment to Mona Idrisu, Head of Youth Employment and Skills Program at Asset, and Constance Swanika, who's the founder and president of DTI. Mona, let me come back to you. So, looking across the 6 countries and the evidence, what stood out most to you about Ghana's progress? So, first, I want you to talk about where Ghana has made some gains and where we have opportunities ahead.
Great. I like this question a lot, Bernard, because often we spend so much time talking about
what's not working.
What's not working. So to commend or to highlight some of the progress that's been made in Ghana over the last 2 decades. As you're aware, we've put a lot of reforms in place, particularly, for instance, setting up the Ghana TVET service. That became the implementation, just so that we're giving TVET the importance that it deserves. We've done a lot of work also in developing a national TVET qualification framework that goes all the way up to PhD. When I tell people you can do TVET all the way to PhD, they are surprised because they still think of TVET like back in the day where you drop out or you finish BC, and from the BC days, and then you go into TVET. And we've also seen a lot of campaigns on why you should choose TVET. So there's been the My TVET campaign, for instance, rolled out to ensure that there's even been recognition of prior learning, where if you've gone into the informal sector TVET, you're able to take exams, assessments, I won't call them exams, but you're able to take assessment that will recognize your learning and translate that into the current qualification framework. So there's been a lot of positive reforms that have happened in the last 2 decades or so in Ghana. With that said, where more room for improvement or where we can do better, Bernard, is in implementation.
Correct.
And I'm sure you're aware, we don't lack policies. We don't lack the fine print. The challenge is always in implementation. So for me, one thing that report really highlights that I want us to take away is our need to pace or double our pace when it comes to implementation. We don't have the time to waste. I was chatting when we're waiting with Constance, and we're saying some of these reforms, if we had done them a decade ago, some of these implementation that we're calling for, if we're done it's the way that we should have a decade ago, the boom we're seeing in demand for TVET would have solved a lot of our problems. The high unemployment rates we're seeing, we wouldn't even be seeing them in the news, because these young people will be productively and gainfully employed, whether in Ghana or beyond, because you see the demand coming from European economies that are aging, from Asian economies that's because they need skills force to feed their industrialization. So everywhere. But unfortunately, we missed that. But we don't have to miss it now for the next decade that's to come. We don't want to find ourselves here in 10 years saying the same things again, an update to this report highlighting the same gaps again. We want to see that implementation has happened, but at a very fast pace. And some of what needs to happen for that to be a reality is investment, working closely with private sector. I can't emphasize this enough, Bernard, because TVET is expensive.
Yeah.
So we cannot design systems that rely solely on government to finance TVET system. So in as much as we're calling for increase in financing towards TVET in the education budgets, but we're also saying work with private sector. There's a lot of private sector players who would be willing to co-finance training the skill force they need, because they will come back and work for them. So they're willing to. But how do you partner? How do you make sure you're creating the enabling environment that is attractive for them to come in? You're de-risking it, for instance, so that because a number of private sector players will ask us, so if we bring the young people in and they break our machines, who is insuring them? So some of these little I call them low-hanging fruits that government can come in, make sure that we're creating the enabling environment, de-risking it, so that private sector can come in and work to invest in skilling our young people.
So implementation is massive. Let me deal with some recommendations. And so they make several recommendations. For example, they call for stronger links between industry and training institutions. They call for more investment. And then they want curricula updated. How do these recommendations resonate with you?
Absolutely. And as Mona said, quality TVET, I'd like to use the word quality TVET, because we don't lack TVET institutions in Ghana.
Lack quality.
We have over 450 TVET institutions.
That's a lot.
But when you then look at, infrastructure, you look at, assets, you look at quality of instructors, that's where you then begin to see the disconnect. And it's not government's responsibility alone to carry the burden of, TVET systems. The off-takers, who are the industries, who require very well-skilled artisans, who otherwise, by the way, are even bringing in foreign labor, which is even more expensive. So this is where, when you then look at, the demand, we're looking at it from a demand point of view, how industry works closely with government. So this is where you have, the public-private partnerships. But at the same time, private sector will tell you cost of doing business is high. So where is the incentive? So if we look at models that have worked well across the world, if you look at Singapore, you look at India, you find that the tax breaks for a lot of these companies, so how do we then really look at some of these, like Mona said, some of these low-hanging fruits to unlock some of these gaps that we're seeing? So in India like this, you will find that the TVET institutions, companies that are into manufacturing, actually bring their assets, because mind you, you have to train young people to be able to handle some of these machines. So you go into a lab and you see that it's all the assets have been funded by a particular industry. That industry then, in case, has also gotten some tax incentives, so it's how we look at how this model would work. And then I would like to also talk about the skill sectors bodies.
Good.
In terms of curriculum, curriculum should be demand driven, it should be industry responsive. So how industry also sits when we're looking at designing curriculum, the curriculum should also be very agile, because industry changes so fast. If you work in technology, every day you wake up, you have to update your app or something, you know. So if we're to keep tab with the changes, that means that the industry curriculum is also very agile. In Singapore, 1/4 of the curriculum changes every semester.
Is it?
To meet the needs. Oh yes.
25%
25% of the curriculum
every
changes
semester.
every semester.
Not every year.
Every semester. But where you then talk about policy,
Wow.
curriculum hasn't been updated, I talked in some cases, over 50 years. So you see the disconnect.
To be fair, the Minister of Education a few days ago in the month of July announced new curriculum where he said they would incorporate AI, robotics, TVET, and then he used another expression from kindergarten all through to JHS. I think he held a press conference where he announced the 3 billion CD investment. So policymakers are obviously coming along. I wanted to push you a bit. If you could prioritize 1 or 2 actions, because you're a woman of action, over the next year to strengthen Ghana's TVET system, what would they be and who needs to lead the effort?
I would look at curriculum and infrastructure and assets.
Okay.
When you talk about good TVET systems, you can't just do one and leave the others.
Okay.
You
So
know,
curriculum, infrastructure, and assets.
and assets.
Okay.
And then would also then look at quality of facilitators as well. So these 4 things, right? And how you look at, for me, centers of excellence. Because I talked about how TVET is expensive. So rather than having 450 TVET institutions, how do we concentrate our budgets and having rather regional centers of excellence? And then, of course, some of the recommendations that were also made in the report, you know, really, like Mona said, if we had really followed through our long-term plans. So this is where we also have the NDPC ensuring that how do we hold governments to following a long-term plan so that, you know, we keep in a more like a progressive approach of how we developed. I think that would also be, you know, the high-level recommendations where I sit as well.
It's interesting. I asked you for 2, you give me 4. I like this. Mona, let me conclude with you. What's the way forward for, I don't want to use the word mainstream, it's a very boring word, but I feel like we all understand that if you have quality skills, you will not be unemployed, because the world will never lack demand for quality skills, all right? And yet, it's always an afterthought. This is a great report, and we are discussing this here. But let me ask the same question that I asked her. What are 1 or 2 of the top actions we must take, and who do you think should lead this effort?
So for me, it goes back to implementation. And I know I'm responding in a very vague way. The reason why I say that, for where I sit, I've been doing research on education systems for over a decade. So I will emphasize once again that we do not lack the nicely printed reports and policy documents. What we really lack is that political will to implement and implement quickly to a high quality. So for me, if we were going to prioritize, it would be, okay, enough of the talking. Enough, I'm in research, I produce these nice reports, but let's put these reports aside. Let's implement. If we can take 1, 2, 3 things, quality trainers, agile curriculums, infrastructure, working with private sector. If we say these 3 things are going to be our priorities, how do we implement and implement quickly? Bringing all stakeholders together. We know it sits with Ministry of Education, but TVET is for industry. So Ministry of responsible for industry, for trade, even tourism, everyone on board, so that we're implementing quickly and ensuring that, like I said, 10 years later, we're not back on this table and saying the same things again, and the world has left us behind.
I'd like to commend Asset for the presence of mind to lead this research work. And in a sense, we are bringing research and practice together, which is why I have the both of you on the platform. So thank you. I'm speaking to Mona Idrisu, who's the head of Youth Employment and Skills at the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, who have produced this fantastic report. We'll show you the link as to how you can get this report. Really, really good report indeed. And we also have been speaking to Constance Swanika, founder and president of DTI. Earlier on, you heard me speak to Gifty Afi Agbenyo, who's the DG Operations for the Ghana TVET service, to set the scene on our TVET landscape. We also gave you some highlights of the report. So we heard some very big words today. Implementation is very, very critical. We must review the curriculum, must also bridge the gap between academia, research, and what's happening on the ground. You've been listening to a very special edition of your favorite conversation, Edtech Monday, which really is a program the Mastercard Foundation initiated under their Africa Works program, partnering, of course, MEST Africa to put it together. We really want to hear from you, and we've put this QR code on the screen for you to send your feedback to us. Now, if you actually want the report, you could find it within the form you'll be filling when you're sending your feedback. So, killing two birds with one stone. Scan the QR code or send us a message on the WhatsApp number 059-267-4082. You can even send us a text message. We're very happy to hear from you. Till next time when we bring you another exciting edition of Edtech Monday, stay with us.
What if your ideas could shape the future of education in Ghana? If you were a brilliant pre-secondary student aged 11 to 15, this is your moment to shine. Welcome to the Literacy Challenge 2026, the national literacy competition that celebrates young thinkers, great writers, and future leaders. This year's challenge is all about artificial intelligence and education. The topic: in not less than 600 words, write a letter to the Minister of Education as a youth consultant discussing the advantages and disadvantages of the use of artificial intelligence (AI) in education. Advise on how Ghana can effectively integrate AI into basic schools to improve teaching and learning, while ensuring that students in rural and underserved communities are not left behind. Remember, your essay must be in your own handwriting, must be endorsed by a parent, guardian or teacher, and include your full contact details. Submit your entry by Thursday, 30th July 2026 at the front desk of Channel 1 TV or PO Box GP 14123 Accra Central. Stand a chance to win 10,000 Ghana cedis cash, a laptop, and earn the title of Ghana's most outstanding all-round pre-secondary student. For more information, call 0205 973 973. The Literacy Challenge 2026 is powered by City FM with support from Channel 1 TV. And it's proudly sponsored by Prospectus Ghana Limited, SIC Insurance, and Advocates Publishing.
What do you have on offer here at this your stand?
Okay, we have a small farm, and on that farm we have lots of trees, fruit trees in particular, and then we have gardens. So we brought herbs along for cooking. We have basil, mint, dill, and then we make products. We have our noni juice, that is more like a medicine, very healthy.
For what?
Diabetes. This one, it boosts your immune system. It builds your memory. There's so many things. I couldn't list all the things that it's good for. Lowers blood pressure. So this one is very strong, very concentrated. Don't mix in other ingredients to cut the price for yourself and make the person think that they're buying something pure. Be honest. Be honest with your product and sell it at a decent, honest price.
Very well. Well, I'm now at Noble Thrills stand. Noble Thrills. Please, can you come closer? Yes, yes. What's your name?
Please, my name is Musa Latifa.
Latifa Musa.
Yes.
And you are what at Noble Thrills?
I'm the CEO of Noble Trail Enterprise.
What is Noble Thrills? What do you do?
Noble Trail, we deal in the sales of authentic, affordable smoke. We have straw baskets, leather wallets, and many more.
I see you have key holders, and baskets, and hats. I'll take one of your hats because the temperature is trying to misbehave with me.
Yes, and I know the hat you love.
Yes.
I know it.
You can sense it.
Yes.
Why?
Because I've been seeing you with that particular hat.
Yeah. And what is this? For catching fish?
No, this one is for decoration, for like if you have an event, weddings.
Okay.
We use them to decorate the place.
Talk to me about this, your bags.
Okay, these are ladies' handbag made with straw. We have artisans from Bolgatanga, so basically they do the weaving for us to come and sell.
You see, I see something looks like a bell. Is that a bell?
Yes, it's called maraca.
What do you use it for?
Okay, the Christians use it at the church as a musical instrument. You can also give it to a child to play with it.
Okay. Where are you based? Where's your business based?
We are based in Bolgatanga and our shop is located at the Crafts Village.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We are also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The name is Noble Trail Enterprise or Noble Trail Arts and Crafts.
Very well. Thank you so much for exhibiting with us.
You are welcome. Let me bring you your hat.
Please bring me my hat. And so I've just earned a hat by coming to the stand here to come and speak to Noble Thrills. They produce a lot of hats, and she got the right hat for me. Oh, put it on my head. Put it on my head.
Especially.
Yes, put it on my head.
Special gift for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you too, and nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. So this is what happens at the Northern Business Fair. Everything Northern comes to you handy. Buy anything you want at any time. Enterprise, talk to me about what you have on offer.
I have honey, raw honey, and boiled. And then I have raw honey mixed with black seed. Yes.
What's the use of honey? Why should I get honey?
Honey is good for your health. It boosts your immune system. It gives you vitality. It boosts your memory. I mean, the benefits are endless. And we all know.
Where do you produce your honey from?
This honey is coming from Fumbisi.
Fumbisi, Upper East, the Fumbisi Valley.
Overseas, yes. That's where this honey is coming from.
So it's natural, it's not any azan.
You can see raw honey, clean.
Can I taste it? Do you have a tasting? All right, so I'm coming to taste the honey to see. As a retired cowboy, I know the taste of honey, so. It's correct. I can testify. I bear witness that this is correct honey. I'll come for a gallon and take it home to my mom.
Thank you very much.
But how has the fair been for you?
It's been great. It's been great. Yes.
You'll be with us next year?
Yes, I will be with you. Last year I was here, only that place was not too visible. But here it's in the central part of Tamale and also it's visible, more visible. Yeah. So I believe this will be better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Savaduma Farms. What do you do? Where are you based?
We are based around the Marine Motel Road. Our great road going towards the Marine Motel.
In Tamale?
Yeah, Tamale, yeah. Both Tamale and Accra. We are there.
Okay, and what do you do?
We base on agriculture and many more. Others, electrical instruments like the solar equipments. So based on the what's the name, solar, agri, the processes, that's the farming processes, and also home appliances.
Okay. So if there's someone in the agri sector watching us, what should they come to Sava for?
Yeah, we have the plowing machine that waits for the plowing of the land. The tailors. We also have for the feeds for especially those growing animals, the kettles and the hens. We have their feed here, their drinking cans. We also have their cages here for them. Also, those who mostly will harvest their rice, they want to sow their sacks. We have the sack sewing machine here for them. We also have their harvesters and other stuffs.
So you do both for livestock and crop?
Yes.
Interesting.
We are in both styles.
How has the fair been for you so far, and what's your plan for next year?
Yeah, the fair right now, it have opened my eyes because right now, if we check, a lot of people came with different kind of spending, even give us more advice what we should do to increase our business. Yes, and also got a lot of customers. Others were there when someone went and called many people to come and watch our booth, and that was also helping us too.
That's good.
It helped us to get a lot of people.
That's nice. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
I'm at Girl Farms Hub. Where's the girl?
She's here.
This is a girl?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. What is the girl's name?
My